Have you ever felt motionless, gripped with fear? Or have you ever been overwhelmed with anxiety? Well, I want to let you know that you're not alone. You see, this year has brought enough chaos to all of our lives to make even the most hopeful among us a little anxious for what's to come next. You see, from the Australian bushfires, COVID-19, the economic recession, school closures, Black Lives Matter protests, and the wildfires in California, man, this year has been a lot. Though, even before this crazy year, we're all experiencing anxiety in Americas, and teenagers in particular was already on the rise. At times, you may find yourself assuming the worst is always going to happen, or having panic attacks, or a significant change in your social, emotional, and physical well-being is always occurring. But I want to remind you that God is still with us and that His presence is unchanging. Even through all the chaos of life, we can look to God for reassurance. Remind yourself that God has said He will never fail you and that He will never abandon you. The Lord is our helper, so we do not have to be afraid. What can mere people do to us? In Hebrews chapter 13, verse 8, it says that Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He is constant, so don't hesitate to turn towards Jesus. The Bible is filled with countless stories of God addressing our anxieties and fears. Like in the story of Moses, when he is afraid to speak before Pharaoh, or with Esther, when she had to present herself before the king on behalf of her people, or when the disciples were gripped with fear that the storm would overtake their boat while Jesus slept in the boat. You see, in all those cases, God showed up in a miraculous way, and He brought comfort and addressed the very thing that gave them fear. But what happens when our worst fears come to fruition? When that thought, which has given us so much anxiety, becomes realized? We did everything in our power. We used all the resources we had available. We prayed to God and we sought Him out, and still our worst nightmare happens. What happens when God is not able to save us from our fears? In Mark chapter 5, Jairus' daughter is at the point of death. The fear of losing his daughter brings him to the feet of Jesus. And just when it looks like there may be a slice of hope, Jairus gets the worst news. A messenger arrives and says that his daughter has died, and there's no need to bother the master. In response, Jesus says, "Do not be afraid, but have faith." You see, Christ is willing to step into our lives and give us hope, even when it seems too late. Once at their home, Jesus clears the room out, and He gives life back to the young girl through His words. You see, when God is with us, we need not be overtaken by fear. When we have faith in the one who is willing to step into our story and address our anxieties head on, then we can rest assured that we are safe. You see, this upcoming week, I want to encourage you to look at your life and acknowledge that there are some things that you are afraid of right now. We can get anxious, fearing about what the future holds for us. And when those emotions start to get to be too much, I want to encourage you to go to these two verses. First, Hebrews chapter 13, verse 8, and Mark chapter 5, verses 21 through 43. God is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Therefore, do not be afraid, just have faith.